How's it going, guys? We're here today looking at the new Necromancer class. It just launched. We've come up with this build. It's taken a little while to put together, but we hope you enjoy, so let's just get straight into it. So we're using the 6-piece scenario set, which if you didn't know, 2-piece, bone armor damage increased by 1000%. 4-piece, bone armor grants an additional 2% damage reduction per enemy hit. And then 6-piece bone armor also activates a swirling tornado of bone, damaging nearby enemies for 750% weapon damage and increasing the damage they take from the Necromancer by 2750%. So the way I came up with this build is I noticed that it just says increasing the damage they take from the Necromancer. That means all sources. That means we can use practically anything for damage. So let's just jump straight into it. You can see we have the full 6-piece. We have helmet, chest, shoulders, gauntlets, leggings and boots. We'll start at the top right. We're going to be running a Traveler's Pledge with a pain enhancer equipped. You might be wondering why a pain enhancer. I know you don't really see this gem very often. You might only be seeing it in support builds such as the Z DPS monk and so on. So the pain enhancer, what it does, critical hits cause the enemy to bleed for 5750%. This can go up to 10,000%. Weapon damage over physical over 3 seconds, and you also gain blood frenzy, granting 3% increased attack speed for each enemy bleeding in 20 yards. And then if you didn't know, the Traveler's Pledge, what it does is if you have both pieces, while moving, damage taken is reduced by 50%, and while standing still, damage dealt is increased by up to 100%. And if you look at the bottom left corner, you'll see it going up there. It's now on 100. This is the damage multiplier that is going up. In our rings, we have the Compass Rose, which is the second part of the Endless Walk set, along with the Traveler's Pledge. We have a Miranea Teardrop of the Starweaver here, also an unusual gem that you don't really see very often. But this is what it does: 15% chance to hit, 15% chance on hit to smite a nearby enemy for X% weapon damage as holy, and heal yourself for 3% of maximum life. And then the secondary perk is smite a nearby enemy every 3 seconds. And then our final ring slot, we have Crisbin Sentence, which is a new Necromancer ring with Bane of the Trapped, arguably the best gem in the game, equipped inside there. So Bane of the Trapped obviously increases damage against enemies under the effects of controller pairing effects by X%. Right now it's 37.5. And you also gain the aura that reduces movement speed within 15 yards by 30%. So what Crisbin Sentence does is you deal X amount of damage up to 100% increased against slowed enemies, or triple the bonus against enemies afflicted by any other controller pairing effect. So that's snares or freeze. Cool, so now that we've covered the rings and the gems that we're going to be using, let's look at the other minuscule things. We have Ancient Party and Defenders. For each enemy stunned within 25 yards, reduces your damage taken by 11%. This just helps out with our toughness and our survivability in the higher rifts. In the belt slot, we have Daisy's Binding, gain additional up to 50% damage reduction when there's an enemy afflicted by your Decrepify curse. And then in the weapon slot, we have Relaner's Hook, Shadow Hook, I think that's how you say it. Every point of maximum essence increases your damage done by 0.5%, and bone armor spikes generate 5% additional essence for enemies hit. The bone armor part doesn't really matter to us. We just want the increase in damage per essence, because this isn't a spending build. This is pretty much a generator build. We're not going to be spending any type of resource. Cool, now that we've done the gear, let's move on to the passives. So in our first passive, we have Final Service, just for some self-res, helps in the higher, greater rifts. Then we have Standalone, because we're not using any type of minions in this build. We're going to be solo all the time, so it's a huge 100% armor buff. We also have Spreading Malediction for 1% damage bonus for each enemy afflicted by your curse, which synergizes nicely with Tragul's Corroded Fang, which we'll be going over later. And then we also have Overwhelming Essence, which is another 40 essence, which does synergize with the Shadow Hook for more damage. Great, let's get into the skills now. So the first skill I've chosen to use is Corpse Lance Brittle Touch. So Corpse Lance, you shoot a projectile from enemy corpses to damage a target, but what Brittle Touch does is increases their chances to be crits each time they hit with Corpse Lance. You'll notice that this synergizes well with Pain Enhancer because critical hits cause them to bleed. So the more we can critical hit them, the more damage we're going to do. Therefore, Brittle Touch is a great choice to be using against like Rift Guardians and such. In my R2 slot I have Grim Scythe with Cursed Scythe. This is a must. This is very much needed in the build because this is going well with Tragul's Corroded Fang, which we'll go over later. Bone Armor, a staple to the build since we are using the Bone Armor set. We have Blood Rush Potency just for more toughness when dashing around. We have Decrepify, also a must. This goes really well with Dainty's Binding, which gives us the up to 50% damage reduction. We also have that on Dizzying Curse, so that the enemies are stunned or have a chance to be stunned when we use it. Then our last skill, we're using Land of the Dead, Frozen Lands. This is basically our huge damage buff. When we're going up against the Rift Guardians or huge packs of enemies, we're going to want to be using Land of the Dead to freeze everything. And then we know, since we are using Quizbin's Sentence, enemies that are affected by any other control appearing effects will take triple damage. So this basically is a triple damage multiplier. Alright, let's head over to the cube. Now in the cube, you'll see we're using Tragul's Corroded Fang. Cursed Scythe Rune for Grim Scythe now has a 100% chance to apply a curse, and you deal 200% increased damage to cursed enemies. Like I said earlier, we're using Cursed Scythe right here to apply those curses. Next we have Aquila Cuirass, just for the extra damage reduction, 50%, purely because we are not using any spenders in this build. We can go with Aquila Cuirass because we're going to be at maximum essence at all times. Then our last one, this is an interchangeable slot. I'm using Wisdom of Kalan because I like it. You can run Unity here and then put a Unity on your follower, but I enjoy Wisdom of Kalan. Just more stacks of bone armor helps you get the damage reduction up. Then Paragon wise, you can see I'm not a very high Paragon level, only 632. I like going into maximum essence for more damage than intelligence. Attack speed and critical hit chance is going to be your best in this slot. Then armor, resist all in the defensive slots, and then life per hit, and then area damage favorably. Now that we've gone over all that stuff, let me show you how this build works, show the rotations that we're going to go through. We'll just do a quick 75 just so I can show you guys how it's done. So you'll notice that I'm not a high Paragon, but you'll see even at a low Paragon level how well this build does. You can see we're basically just tearing through all the enemies fairly easily. So the way I usually like to start the rifts is I like by using Land of the Dead, just so everything freezes so I can start getting my bone armor stacks up. And then I basically just want to be riding around looking for elite packs. Here's our first elite pack for the rift at least. And you're going to want to have Decrepify up at all times for the extra damage reduction. You can use bone armor as a stun effect, you know, if you want to try get more damage on. You'll see I do it right here, and just like that, that enemy is dead. Let's carry on. Not the best rift right now, not a lot of density, but we should be okay though. So like I said, with corresponding to the gems, anything that we hit with our Swirling Tornado is going to be taking huge amounts extra damage from us. And then this is where the Pain Enhancer and Teardrop of the Star Weaver come into effect. If we've hit someone with our Swirling Tornado and then get a critical hit, they're going to be bleeding for that X amount of damage over time. But they're also going to be multiplying that damage by the 2,750% that we have on top of that. And as you see, we just wreck everything here. This is a 75, just so you know, you can see it over there. We also only 630 something Paragon, extremely low for such a high rift. You saw we also have suboptimal gear. Nothing, only 2 Caldicens to spare, one on the amulet and one on the weapon. So there's not really much extra damage to the Caldicens to spare. Now we got a electrocute pylon. We're just going to run through and pretty much tear everything up very easily. And you can really see we're pacing miles ahead of the timer. Let's go through to this next level and see how it goes. You guys will see when we get to the Rift Guardian, there's a very specific rotation that I like to run that works very well against clearing Rift Guardians. You can basically instantly kill Rift Guardians. You guys will see when we get there and you'll see what I mean by the rotation. But I use Bone Armor and then Decrepify and then 3 swipes of the Scythe. Then I use Land of the Dead to freeze the Rift Guardian. And then I just spam Corpse Lance over and over just for the increased chance at critical hits. And this basically destroys the Rift Guardian instantly. While we're busy working through the rifts, I hope you're enjoying the video. I hope you like these type of videos with the build guides and showing how it works and everything. If you're interested in seeing more of these videos, please let me know. I can do more Necromancer build guides and I'll see how it goes in the future. I can also go through other classes if you're interested in seeing that, if you're new to Diablo. At the time of this video, there is a Necromancer giveaway, a Necromancer code giveaway that's running right now. You should enter that. It's a great opportunity. The Necromancer is by far the most fun character to play right now for me personally. Maybe it's just because we haven't had a new character in so long that it just feels so fresh and new. But yeah, definitely enter that giveaway. It's a few codes. Hopefully you can win it. But as you can see, we're just absolutely tearing through this rift. We're over halfway with still 11 minutes. This is a 75. You saw that we have suboptimal gear, low Paragon level, yet we're still just destroying everything. Yeah, this build is definitely extremely powerful. I can see this build being one of the top builds for the Necromancer this season. If it doesn't get nerfed, readjusted or something, because I don't know if the interaction between the Bone Armor, Swirling Tornado and the gems is intended. I don't know if Blizzard intended that to be like a thing, but if it is, then I'm definitely going to be running the Necromancer in the next season for my first character and hoping to get this build up to date, because it's obviously a fantastic build to do. You know, we can get to that 70 very easily. Obviously you're looking to push to a 70 in the beginning of the season so you can start earning your Primal Ancients and all that. So the rotation that I'm doing right now is I'm basically just dashing into crowds of enemies, and then I'm using Bone Armor to stun them, and then I'm also cursing them with Decrepify for the damage reduction, also their damage bonus for us, because Decrepify does slow and reduce enemy damage. So it's basically a damage buff for us through Chrisman Sentence, the ring that we are using. But you guys can see, this build is just very, very strong. Even at these low, like Paragon and suboptimal gear levels, the build is extremely strong. We're pretty much destroying any major that we're coming across in just a few hits, especially once we've got all our debuffs on him. Like, just you can see right there, that elite just got absolutely shredded. So we're approaching the Rift Guardian. Hopefully we get someone nice. This build doesn't really have much weaknesses. As you can see, it can deal with crowds and single target damage quite efficiently. I think Juggernaut enemies are quite difficult to handle if you're on the higher rift levels. I have cleared an 86 with this on my account. It's with the pretty much the exact same gear as I have right here. I've cleared the 86. It's definitely going to push into the 90s. If you like want to keep up with the Diablo leaderboards. I don't know how other builds are busy comparing right now. You can let me know and I'll be interested to see that. But I don't think they're as strong as this. I know the pet set is also pretty decent right now. I see that doing a lot of work on the leaderboards and such. But now we're coming up to the Rift Guardian. You'll see the rotation that I like to use. You'll notice that I have Land of the Dead up and I haven't really used it. So basically what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to cast Bone Armor, then curse him with the Crepify, then hit him 3 times with the Scythe, cast Land of the Dead, and just spam Corpse Lance at him. And that is it. The Rift Guardian is dead. You can see that was a 75. We finished it pretty much half the time, not even half the time. It was very, very easy, to be honest. This build is extremely strong, and hopefully in the future we can see enhancement on this build. Of course, I'll be looking to four ways to increase the power of this build. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. If you've stuck around and you've enjoyed this, let me know if you want to see more. And if you did enjoy, please drop a like and stuff. That would be really appreciated. And until next time, I'll see you later.